afternoon. Welcome to Women Speaking, where Ugandan women unpack the nation's most pressing issues through truth, lived experiences, and bold voice for justice. My name is Caroline Ayot. I am your host. We are diving into President Museveni's recent letter on the poor state of roads in Uganda. In his letter, the president blames scattered resource allocation and a failure to understand the NRA's one-by-one makes a bundle policy of development as opposed to developing everything at once. He says that scattered allocation of resources is the reason why none of the sectors are developed. He also criticizes reliance on donor funding for service delivery and suggests Uganda simply hasn't been listening to NRA or the UPDF well enough. President Museveni has been a leader of Uganda for over 40 years, presiding over an era marked by corruption, militarization of institutions, and a state where roads are literally shut down for hours to allow him to have priority over access. As Ugandan women sometimes have been stuck in traffic under these same conditions. Tonight we're asking the question, whose roads are these, whose strategy is failing, and who is being left behind? I am joined by three women on this panel. I'll introduce them, starting from my extreme left, coming in. I have Ruth Kitamireke. Ruth is a PhD scholar at Makerere University. Ruth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nancy.
I also have a new panelist. She's Harriet Tyobo Yake. She was the former 90th Guild Minister for Disability from Makerere University. Harriet, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nancy.
We also have a familiar face on the show, Honorable Miria Matembe. She's a senior citizen and a child of God. Honorable, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm always glad to be here, but I don't know when I'm also retiring.
It's the intergenerational conversations you inform us.
Intergenerational?
Yes.
Where is the generation? It seems me now, where is that is how many, that's my daughter, this is my grandchild. This is serious.
Yes, so I would just like to get a general perspective from Ruth and Harriet on what you got out of the letter when you first read it. I'll start with you, Ruth.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Really, when I looked at this letter, I didn't know how to read it because it is coming from the president of this country who is blaming different members for the misallocation of funds and not prioritizing areas such as infrastructure, as is the vision of the NRA. But also for the longest time, Mr. Museveni has been the chair of cabinet. And it is the cabinet that is, the cabinet hosts ministers, including the Minister of Finance, Ministry of Works, Transport and Works. And all this is coming from their chair, who is literally blaming his team. So I do not know whether this should have been a public notice or it should have been more of an internal review that should have happened. But also the other conversation around donor funding, which you have mentioned, the continued reliance on donor funding. This does not come out of the blue. It is not a peasant from Masaka who is going to World Bank to request for funds on behalf of this country, okay? When you look at how we were introduced to the regime of donor funding, it is a certain neoliberal program that the government conceded to. We accepted structural adjustment programs. We have hosted the donors. We have hosted the World Bank, the IMF, and all these donors for the longest time. We go and beg them to give us funds to construct roads, to construct bridges. So we cannot wake up in the morning and start blaming donors as if the donors came here on their own. Certain documents were signed. Some people requested them to come here. So I think it's more of a blame game that is happening here. But I think it's the wrong person blaming and the wrong person blaming the wrong people, because this is coming from the chair of cabinet, and yet cabinet is really in charge. The president appoints the members of cabinet. So you cannot blame us for how roads are not being prioritized, and yet we have voted for you and we are mandating you to do most of these things really on behalf of the people. So I think this should have been more of an internal reflection within cabinet, with the president and the members of cabinet, than throwing it to the general public, because most of these are things that probably should have happened in-house. So I think this is probably an in-house battle that has just gone bad, that is coming out to the public, but most of the responsibility should be taken by the government at hand.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Harriet.
I love what my sister Ruth has submitted, and I actually agree with her, and I just want to add on to her submission. I don't think what he pointed out is actually the issue that is causing our infrastructure development slow down. I think there are key issues that he did not point out, and I don't blame him, because you know, we are nearing the 2026 general elections, and you know, to coerce voters to vote for you, you need to kind of poke at the issue, but then not poke, you know. You have to beat around the bush in order to show people that you are really concerned. And then also, before coming on to this panel, I asked a few of my friends, the young leaders, what do you think about this? And most of them told me, we don't believe what he's saying, but then we are looking forward to his actions to see whether he's being honest about what he's saying. So that's definitely it. I don't think this is the reason why our infrastructure is not developing as much as we want it to.
Well, the president said to stay tuned on his channel.
On the channel
for more
next
information.
developments.
Yes, for more development.
So
yes,
we can
please.
only get news from him, not
Yes.
any other
But
sources.
also, I was thinking that this letter is coming in just a few weeks after the NRM primaries, in which most members of cabinet lost. Most ministers who were running under NRM primaries actually lost their elections. And maybe to the president and to the members of the NRM, this could show something that people are not happy and the citizens are starting to speak. So you coming out and starting to blame, really that letter is an issue of cabinet. It is an issue that, these are concerns that cabinet should have really handled in-house. So these issues coming out, maybe in a way could be the president trying to disown the non-performing members of cabinet, which the people actually saying that is why they did not re-elect them in the recent primaries. So I think there is a lot of context around this letter, and as Harriet was saying, it is not about the roads. It is something way deeper than the roads.
Thank you very much. Honorable Miria, I will bring you now to the conversation. The president suggests that people have failed to understand the NRA strategy of one by one makes a bundle, and he refers to how the NRA used to organize way back in the bush, how they had to prioritize buying guns over sleeping places and all those things. So what does this say about the government's communication and accountability?
When somebody fails, when you see somebody who keeps taking you into the past, theologizing the past, you know he has failed. And for me, I'm so glad that I speak my mind and I power it out. And in fact, I'm trying, when you read that letter, I was trying to say, should I really burst out with my usual language? Because under normal circumstances, I would have said, that's nonsense. But now I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it, but I'm saying surely. No wonder the Ugandans' values and moral standards have really fallen. Mao, who is now part of the NRM, used to say that a fish rots from the head. When you see moral decadence, ethical value degeneration, when you see all these things, they come from the head. The Ugandans have been rotten from the head, like that fish. Why am I beginning like this? When somebody loses a sense of shame, when somebody loses a sense of shame, really, they stop being human. I'm not abusing the president of Uganda. But he has really totally lost a sense of shame. Because, first of all, I have already said, when you are a leader, you must, one, be accountable to whatever happens.
Yes.
Two, you must take responsibility. You must know that you are the head of the state. You are accountable to what is happening and take responsibility. In my life, even when I was in that government, I have never seen or heard President Museveni take responsibility over anything that has gone wrong. I remember at one time, it was somebody in State House, there was money lost involving Basaja Baraba, and that is the time over when the Minister of Finance was stopped and Chiduma Kubi, I think, was removed or whatever. I can't remember very well. But there was a young boy who was a lawyer in the State House there, like advising, writing, in turn. I saw Museveni condemning that boy. He said, he came here and brought the letter for me to sign. And I said, but big man, when will you really throw away this shameless character and pick a sense of shame and say, you Ugandans, forgive me. I was very busy, maybe I didn't read this letter, and so I didn't know, but please forgive me, I'm the one who is answering. I have never, I'm saying it here, anybody who knows that I'm lying, let them come out and tell us when and what time, in which case did President Museveni ever took responsibility. Akajirati, yes, thing has gone bad, I'm the president, forgive me. No. As far as he's concerned, he blames, he can even blame like a cat which comes and kicks the milk or something. He can say it's the cat. I'm telling you, you cannot be a leader who doesn't take responsibility. Taking responsibility means where you've gone wrong, you apologize. Where you've gone right, you are praised, and things like that. And when President Museveni is saying, oh, in NRA, things were like that. Oh, NRA, those years it was like that. He is exactly confirming what I have ever told Ugandans who listen to me. That since the NRM party, National Resistance Movement Party, whatever was the vision of the National Resistance Movement, our priority and the vision and that one of NRA and so on, as he says, were abandoned long ago. Yes. They were abandoned. I have already said here that in Chinyankore, we say that echokunda chikonagise chokweite. In other words, you could be holding something which you had held because you liked it. But now you love something more than which you are holding. You drop this one and opt for what you love more. What do I mean? You said generation, these people are learning from me now.
Yes.
When President Museveni came here in 1986, with all the people from the bush, my cousins, my uncles, my brothers, they were all there. They arrived here with a 10-point program, which was the vision for developing this nation and turning it into a wonderful nation, democratic nation, where there are no more wars, where there is peaceful handover of power from one president to another, and there was that dream, and he was holding it. I want to imagine that he meant it, but ever since he changed it, I already think that he had even captured us wrongly. Craftedly captured us, and those people in the bush.
Yes.
We thought that what we are holding is what we must hold. For him, in his mind, he had what he had wanted. And what is this? Staying in power forever. Ruling forever. So when he loved power more than he loved developing this nation and turning it into a democratic country where freedom is there, where people speak and where people choose the leaders they want, where that is what he came holding, and we embraced. But long ago, since in fact before, by 2001, he had already dropped it slowly by slowly. And for us who had seen it, we had hoped and believed that there is a presidential term limit. He will not continue beyond. The last term was supposed to be 2006. But of course, that's how for us, he threw us out completely when we refused his removal of presidential term limit, and he put it there. Then from that time, he should not actually refer to NRM. It is to be good. NRA is to be good. Is that Mozi? You look at Mozi, commander of the army. Look at that young man, commander of the army, and what he's doing. Is that the army that they came with? The army with Muntu? The army with who are these people whom I now forgotten? The distinguished, intellectual, human-centered, God-believing people. Is it the team that he has? So why does he forget that actually he lost it long ago? If he had had that, he dropped it, he lost it, he's crazy with living in power forever, and he should stop. And you are telling me that the failure, inability, read it for me, inability to understand NRM's policy and what else?
Development agenda, is it? Wait.
But he threw it long ago. He threw away the policy of NRM. He threw away the development agenda of NRM. And he picked his own policy, his own development agenda, his own and his family. Why does he expect that his agenda, together with his family's agenda, can be understood by anybody? He's saying that we have failed to understand. I mean, they are not driven by a vision. When you are driven by a vision in leadership, people do understand the vision. Because you explain it to them, they get to know it, and they run with you like we did. We ran with him with 10-point program. We understood it. We taught it to the people. We shared everything to the people, and they embraced it, and we moved. He should stop lamenting. He should stop falsely lamenting what he should not lament. But now, when he dropped the vision, and he started being driven by an ambition, I must explain to people listening to me. There's a difference between a vision and an ambition. Leaders should never be driven by an ambition, a personal ambition. Leaders should be driven by a vision. Vision is that which you see, which is good for the people you are leading. It is good for you and the people and the nation, as opposed to ambition. Ambition is that which you want, that makes you better than others. With ambition, you are competing. It is about your personal thing. You want to do better, to be better than others. With the vision, you want, together with the people you are leading, to move better and do well. So President Museveni, if he had that vision for us, which we saw, he dropped it long ago and picked his personal ambition, which brings in his family. I mean, how can I understand what Salim Saleh wants? Do I know it? How do I know it? He wants to take the land, he wants to take Uganda, and they want to grab everything, and we say that Ugandans have failed to understand. How can we understand somebody's ambition? Ambition is in people's head and brains. They never put it on the table. It is the vision which you put on the table. So how can I understand Muhoozi's vision? I mean Muhoozi's ambition. His mother, how can I understand what he wants? And all the relatives of Museveni with his family. How can we We Ugandans, we have failed to understand. How can we understand the ambition when it is personal into their hearts? They dropped the Uganda's vision long ago. They are implementing their ambitions. Therefore, he has no right at all to come and start saying Ugandans have failed to understand. Which understanding? Secondly, which Ugandans is he talking about? He is the very man who said, when we are saying in elections, why do we elect people who sleep, wrong people? He said, you elect them as long as when it is to vote on what NRM wants, not what Uganda wants. When it is to vote on what NRM wants, they will wake up. He's the very man who said, you leave my fish. I have appointed fishermen and women, leave them. Now, what? You people, stop calling me here. Because I just can't, I mean, I have wisdom and brain enough not to be fooled or to be, played down like that. You choose the people you want. You rule over them. Is there any decision which can be taken in parliament or in the cabinet which Museveni doesn't agree with? He's the one. He's the one who has failed to understand his policy. He's the one who has failed to understand himself. He's too old to understand himself. He's the one who is not understanding anything. Because he's the one who decides. Parliament must call them. You must do this. Cabinet must do what he wants. So when he says they inability, what is it? Please, President Museveni, enough is enough. Stop provoking some of us.
Thank you, Honorable Miria. We keep calling you so that nobody can be fooled.
Because it is disturbing me.
Thank you very much. So, Ruth, I'll bring you back to the conversation, and we're going to go a bit more academic. Yes. So, given Uganda's constitutional commitment to popular democracy, how does militarization of service delivery, including infrastructure like roads, align or conflict with these principles, but also considering lived experiences of, say, women? For example, the woman who died in traffic when the roads were blocked by President Museveni's motorcade. How do we explain this?
Relate it to priority, by the way.
Yes.
Let him connect it to priority.
The priorities.
Yes.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Nancy. As Doctor was saying, this is a question that relates to the priorities of this government. And as much as we don't want to hear it, the priorities have really changed. So when we have bad roads, it is not that all Ugandans face the bad roads the same way. There are people whose cars will never feel bumps, and there are people who are using these cars, who are using these roads as pedestrians, on borders, as bikes, as pregnant women going to deliver, as patients going to hospital. We are using roads in different ways, and different populations use these roads for different reasons and are affected by bad roads in many different ways. So what you have just mentioned, that someone has lost a life because the roads have been blocked for the president's motorcade to pass, that shows you where the priorities of the government are. Is it still the people? Because while democracy might have its challenges, but the real history of democracy, when you take it back to the history, it is the vision was people, you hand over your sovereignty to a single person or to a single body who will rule over you and who will decide on your behalf, okay? That they will wage war on your behalf, they will provide services for you, they'll plan and make things happen in society on your behalf. But you wonder whether with the current situation that is still happening. I was also thinking of it in this way. The Uganda Police produced a report recently of the Uganda Police Crimes Report of 2024, and it indicated that of all the lives that were lost on roads, 55.7% of them were lives of people below the age of 35. That also should show you something. And these are people who have the vision to create a better Uganda. These are people who have the ambition to contribute to the development of this country. These are people who still have dreams, who are still hoping, who still have a certain vision for a better Uganda in some way. And these are the people whose lives are mostly succumbing to bad roads. But also from a women perspective, that many women are still losing lives. It's even absurd that in 2025, many women are still losing lives because of bad roads. And it's both the national roads and those roads in communities that you cannot access a hospital, you cannot access something, it's many miles away. And a life is lost just because someone was not able to access. So the question of roads is deeply a priority question. It's a question of who does this government serve. It's a question of who should be prioritized and who indeed is actually being prioritized. But also back to the question of what does that tell us of the state of democracy in this country if even contracts are being given to the UPDF? Well, some people could say the UPDF is less corrupt, the UPDF is less, it is delivering in time, but that's also another question really. Because one, no one really holds the UPDF accountable. So we do not know whether they are less corrupt or more corrupt, because how many people have the capacity? Recently, the Parliament, I think it was the Accounts Committee that called the UPDF in Parliament to face a certain committee of Parliament, so they could ask them some of these accountability questions. And the commander said, "I'm not appearing and we shall not appear." So how can we hold such a body accountable? Okay, but yet when you look at how some of these tenders should be gotten, it should be a democratic process that you put out a bid. People should apply and let someone be selected as a successful bidder for this project. But that is now being killed. So it is a question that attacks both the fundamental debate on what democracy should look like and what democracy really now has come to mean in this country. Because one, there is access to government tenders, access to some of these projects for you to win the bid to work on a certain road. But also even those non-UPDF actors who have won will tell you of the certain processes that are entailed in you actually winning that bid, that you have to pay someone somewhere, you must be knowing someone somewhere. Many cases are coming up that actually this person took our money from us and they promised to give us this tender, but eventually this one took it. So this is a question that actually points us to how democracy is looking in this country. And without its looking, I don't think it's still democracy. Because what democracy is working for the people and caring about the people you're serving. And that is not happening. The people no longer have the capability to get some of these contracts. But also the people don't even have the capability to ask and question how these projects are being run. And when those roads are made, the people don't even have the capacity to use some of these roads. That these roads are made in specific areas and for specific people to use them. When you say that you're going to use them, you will use the road to the extent that the president does not want to use the road. But if the president wants to use the road, you're not going to use that road. Recently, I was saddened. It was raining heavily. It was an afternoon, and the president was going, I think, to Kawempe. They blocked cars for about 2 hours, and people were in jam on borders in rain. I don't know why people have not paid attention to that thing, but people were in rain, and I was like, oh my God, is this how this government treats its people? Like that at least feel bad for people who you have made to stand in rain because they're waiting for one person who, for over 2 hours it was heavily raining and people were in rain just because cars had been stopped for the president to pass. So the question of roads is not just a question of roads. Yes, we could talk of it in terms of how much we are losing in terms of GDP, how much we are losing because the Kenya Ginger Road is not being worked on. But that would be a narrow way to look at the question of roads. Because the question of roads, I think, deeply touches the fundamentals of democracy, and it also questions who really should be prioritized in this country.
Thank you so much, Ruth. I was a bit spellbound for a moment and I didn't realize you were finishing. So Harriet, I want to bring you back into the conversation, and we want to talk about inclusive policies. Inclusive policies. You are a former minister for persons with disability, and right now the state of roads, just to talk about accessibility for people, might be greatly difficult. What budgetary concerns have you had over time especially when it comes to roads and accessibility for persons with disability?
Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind when I was still the Minister for Students with Disabilities, I always had my friends, 3 friends who are always, they are wheelchair users. So sometimes I would get scared of inviting them to some events outside campus where they had to facilitate themselves to come. With some of the events, we used to take them by a van from all the way from campus to the place. But then that those events were it was a personal initiative to facilitate yourself to the event. I would get scared because I know the roads are really narrow, you know? The roads are really narrow, and I'm not even saying that it's from maybe Makerere University to Jinja. No, from Makerere University to maybe somewhere around 5 kilometers from campus, where the person can just go. They don't need to board. I'll get scared because the roads are really narrow. We know that border riders these days use the walkways because of the jam, and also the roads are not inclusive of border riders. The number of border riders has increased, and that is something we need to acknowledge. But even the new roads that they construct do not take that into consideration. They just assume border riders should use the same path that cars are using, and there are problems there. So now at the border riders, most cases what they do is they use the walkways. And these are the same walkways that people with crutches are going to use, that people with wheelchairs are going to use, and it is not safe at all for them, you know? So I really think, I believe that the Ministry of Works and Transport should really take that into account. They should take into account the means of transport that are being mostly used, and how can they accommodate them so that the people are safe. This is some kind of road safety measure that should be taken. And then also, when we talk about the roads, when we talk about transport, actually, let's talk about transport in general. I want to throw light onto other means of transport. You know that in Uganda, we used to have, I read stories because growing up I haven't seen a railway. I hear about it. Yeah, I've been to a tiny boat there at Port Bell in Luzira. These are things that could have been used, fully used, you know? The railway stations have all collapsed, and these are other things. I can even tell you that railway stations, railways are better for someone with a wheelchair. You know, they have to pack up their things, or fix them in a car.
Yes.
But then the trains are wider and all that. If they were really functional, I believe they would be way better to use for people with wheelchairs, people with crutches who don't have to get a border and then they're holding the crutch on, you know, their laps and trying to go from one place to another. So can the government really put emphasis on these other means of transport?
You know, considering the conversation we've had on the panel, that the priorities of the government are really different, aren't there some policy recommendations that say CSOs that align with persons with disability that are being ignored, for example? Because what policies would you recommend that could actually improve that?
Pardon the question?
Or what policies would you recommend to improve the transport network, say for persons with disability, not just wheelchair users, but also persons with visibility issues, and and all that?
Okay, so I think for that, the fact that I must admit in Uganda we are kind of used to mediocrity, so we are sometimes advocating for less than we should get. Yes. And that is a challenge for all of us. So I was advocating for something less, that yet we can advocate for something more. So other policies that I would advocate for is, you know, the structure of the roads needs to really be revised. Yeah. In that at campus we are lucky, we are fortunate that the students with the students with disabilities have helpers, and these helpers help them navigate. You know, they help them navigate. And I was talking to someone who was from South Africa, and they told me that along the roads, there are signs that people with vision impairment can like they are very inclusive in that they can know that I am going this place, I'm going to this place without even need for a what? A guide, a helper. Now when you get out of campus, you're now a working person, you don't have a helper, or you're just still at home, you don't have a helper. You need to navigate these places alone. So our roads, not really, they do not put into consideration these people with different impairments. And that's something. And also, yeah, the signs are really, really important for people to be able to, for mostly people with visual impairment, to be able to navigate the roads. And also the walkways need to be a little wider. So generally, the structure of the roads need to be changed. That's something about the roads.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable Matembe, I will bring you back to the conversation again, and I would like to ask, what recommendations would you make for us to improve this governance system, to move away from what we have right now? Because regardless of how much things have failed, somebody said that we should not succumb to fatalistic resignation. We should not resign ourselves to the fact that the country has failed and there's nothing we can do. What would you recommend?
You see, when you see we, I don't know who is we.
Oh, everyone
because
is
Ugandans, I said it here, that Ugandans, I mean, I think even there is the word of God. When you read the word of God, people get the leaders they deserve. Ugandans, the level where they are, they deserve whoever is leading them. They deserve the corrupt leaders because they are the ones who make them corrupt. They deserve the inhuman leaders, the greedy leaders, because they themselves, you see, leaders are chosen from Ugandans. When you are choosing these leaders who are shameless, who are greedy for power, who are corrupt, who are not human-centered, who are driven by selfishness, they are from you as a community. You see, they are from the current community is the one which chooses the leaders whom they choose. And the highest leader is the one who appreciates and wants those kind of leaders whom they choose. I'm going to give an example. I hope I won't be misinterpreted as being self-centered or selfish. I ask for excuse to give this example. When I was watching TV all the time and seeing the senior citizen, the elderly people's land being grabbed, their children are beating them out of their homes. The old women are deserted. I was seeing them on TV, and I kept saying, Vanange, even on social media, who will ever talk for these elderly people? Who can speak for them? And we make sure we get policies and programs and laws which integrate the elderly people into the development system of this country. Because I was seeing that the moment we, the elder people, are professors in education, health, all these workers, Uganda is standing on the shoulders of those senior elderly people. And yet the moment they stop working, they are thrown into the garbage, into the dustbin like garbage. When they are sick, nobody cares. No insurance, no nothing. So I was saying, Banang, I wish we could get an opportunity who will speak for these people. And as if God was answering my cry in 2021, they come with this idea that the senior citizens, elderly, are going to be represented in parliament. I said, God. In fact, at first I complained because Museveni had already created new cities, new constituencies. You know what I said, Vanange? Where will all this money come from? Why are all these people positions being created? So when I saw the seniors, I said, but God, what is all this? It's even increasing, I was saying. But aren't there seniors? Moses is there. What I kept. Then down the road, I felt in my spirit that you were crying for going to who would speak for these people. Now God has opened the door for you. And you are crying. I said, God, you have answered my cry. And among those positions, there were one for woman representative of the elderly people. And I said, who can be better than me to shout and speak and make sure that we put policies, programs, and laws that will integrate we, the elders, into the development process of this nation. I said, it's me. I went to contest for the position. This is Miria Matembe, a lawyer with 3 degrees, by the way. Having been in the political system right from LC1 up to Parliament, for 20 years I was doing that. This is a former Minister for Ethics and Integrity. This is a woman who was a member of 21-member Constitutional Commission and was a CA delegate. And moreover, she was a member of the committee chaired by Kanyihamba and participated Katurebe, Ben Watcher, and so many distinguished people. We put the final stamp to the Constitution of Uganda. That is your Matembe, I'm telling you. Senior citizen, by then I was 65, who wanted to go and speak for these people. Now I was going as independent. There came one woman. She's called Wako. You don't know who represents the seniors. She's called Wako. She was a community development officer. Somebody who studied in Nsamizi, which you can't remember, long ago. And this is the woman who came to contest with me, Miria Matembe. And billions, because she was NRM, they released billions of money for this woman to defeat this brain, which could have been able to understand the policy. He's talking of understanding policy. Does he want anybody who can understand policy to be in Parliament? Does he want anybody of that caliber to be in cabinet? No! That is a long time ago. It is gone. So I saw voter patches. Wholesale voter patches. When I went to campaign with these seniors, standard the platform, and I told them in brief what I wanted to do. She stood there and said she wants to make toilet for them. That's what she said. And I got a standing ovation from the voters. But because they had already given them everything they want, she's supposed to have defeated Matembe. And on the elections day, she was there saying, the degrees, we have trampled on the doctorate into the mud. And I said, indeed, you are trampling on Uganda into mud. I'm giving this example to show you who makes Uganda what it is. Why couldn't those people eat the money, drink everything, and vote for me? Not because I wanted money, because I am a service-driven person. I was paying for the seniors. Now I want any Uganda listening to me here who can even tell me even two names of those senior 5 people who went to represent senior citizens in the parliament. I don't know whether you have ever heard any senior person in parliament talking. And do you think if I had gone there, you think I would have come out without at least shouting and seeing whether we can get at least one good policy? So it is up to you, Ugandans. You can't do much. As far as I know, and as far as I can say, you are getting the leaders you deserve. and you are going to suffer. Unfortunately, is that we are also suffering with you. Some of us who would have done a good job are also suffering with you. But you can't say, what will you do? It is only God. As far as I'm concerned, I have said it and repeated it. Unless God comes and hears us from heaven and hear our land, and I am sure he will. If you Ugandans behave like what it says, is it 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 13 or something, where it says, if my people who are called by my name, if they shall humble themselves, repent, and pray to me, I will hear them from heaven and heal. Forgive them and heal their land. For me, when you see me as still hopeful, with my energy, with my whatever I can do, I'm standing on that promise of God. If we can be many, a number of us, and we cry, and by the way, we are crying, you wait, down the road, they will go, those people. My prayer is that they go when I'm still alive, so that I can dance and sing for the Lord for hearing our prayer.
Thank you so much, Honorable Miria. So our time is fast spent and we are coming to the end of our show. But now I'm going to read some part of the letter and then the concluding statement of the letter. And here it says the budget for roads beginning 2008 increased to 1.8 trillion for the first time in the history of Uganda, while that of electricity was also increased by 1.3 trillion. The budget for the two critical sectors increased to 4.62 trillion and 2.37 trillion in 2017, respectively. Actually, allocation for roads jumped to 6.4 trillion in the year 2019, and that of electricity was also increased to 3 trillion in the same year. I'm going to skip a paragraph. It's also talking about the budget, and then the president says, apparently, the budget of the roads rose to shillings 4.457 trillion per year in the financial year 2018 to 19. On account of that emphasis on electricity and the roads, we overcame the electricity blackouts that had gripped Uganda since starting with 2005. So at the end of the letter, of course, he signs off that targeting the creation of cities, new districts, higher pay for civil servants, etc., before you put aside adequate money for roads, electricity, security, wealth creation is bad planning.
But stop there. Who created the cities? Who created the constituencies? Who created the districts? Can you imagine? You see, when he's talking like that, when I was a member of parliament in Mbarara, the district had 49 sub-counties, and it had 10 counties, including municipality. We were 11 members of parliament, okay? Mbarara, the whole of Mbarara. Now, just that Mbarara district, just now, the area I used to cover has got 7 districts. And those 7 districts, they have, each is a district. And yet they were counties. Now they are districts. Now they have east and north. They have south and west. And they have all these. And you find those who were 11 could be now 30. If you go, for instance, to Bushenyi, just to Bushenyi, which was a county, is now a district. And it has 4 members of parliament, east and west, and then woman, and then municipality. She goes to the extent of creating district, a county for Hinda, for Otafire to win. Now, even in the north, wherever, he is creating, he is the very, very one who creates these constituencies and these cities to make people dance. He looks at people, he says, let me stupefy. What is stupid? Stupefy them and blind them and say, I'm bringing a city. Bananga, you people, we who were in Obote's time, when he used to say, I have given you senior secondary school. The next day it is a senior secondary school. The primary now becomes a senior secondary school. How do you give it? It was already there. You turn it into, you don't give things. Institutions are created. I was in parliament, we made a constitution in order to create a district or a county, even a county. It was based on certain amount of people in order for a constituency to be a constituency. By that time we said, was it minimum? When it reaches 100, was it 100,000? 100,000 people, like that. There was a law governing that. Now that law stopped to work. Now it is Museveni who announces. He gives, and everybody say, everybody goes to Museveni. Everybody wants a job, everybody wants salary increase, everybody wants to be treated outside, everybody wants, it is one person who is controlling the whole country. For me, you Ugandans forgive me, but since God created me with my big mouth, I must use it. Please join me to tell President Museveni to stop deceiving us. We have eyes, we have ears, we have sense, we have intelligence. I mean, we are intellectual, we have brains. Please, you stand up and say, since I have failed to manage this country, I hand it over to somebody else. But you cannot write such kind of things.
Let me finish. Allow me finish, Honorable. So after, I will reread that statement. Targeting the creation of cities, new districts, higher pay for civil servants, etc., before you put aside adequate money for roads, electricity, security, wealth creation, etc., is bad planning. Listen to the NRA/UPDF strategy. And then he says, I, however, also heard of some stories that there may be inflation of costs in some of the roads. Stay tuned on the channel. We may get some additional information. Signed, Yoweri K. Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda.
That information is useless for me.
Yes. So I would like to get your parting shots, considering everything that we have discussed. Yes, you've already parted.
Useless information.
Yes, you've already given us your parting shots, Honorable. So we'll start with Ruth, then, Harriet, you can begin. You're ready?
Because you've talked about, that letter is talking about things like giving priority to security, infrastructure, that is roads, and then wealth creation. So that thing of wealth creation, you know, the pride of NRM right now is the PDM and the Myoga. But then when you look deep into what is happening, Daily Monitor released an article, I think it was around June, and it was, they were interviewing some of the beneficiaries of that, and they were asking those ladies, what challenges are you facing? What have you gained from this? And trust me, most of them were even scared of talking about where they spent the money. That program needs to be seriously revised. The wealth creation program seriously needs to be revised. It is a failure, but then when they come and campaign to us, they tell us how it is a success, how it is helping so many people. That's not true. And then when we talk about the roads, the one by one, Uganda, that is a good idea, because I mean they even tell us handle one thing at a time, you know. But then Uganda, where we are now, we are not yet at that. That's not a good idea for Uganda. Why? Because the accountability is bad. The person that is supposed to monitor the people, to monitor his cabinet, to ensure that things are working, going on well, is actually not doing it. So if the head monitor is not doing what he's supposed to do, if he's kind of compromised, then what about the people below? What will they be? And then also, what is success according to that plan? There needs to be clear clear description of what success looks like before even implementing, saying that, okay, now let us work on road development. What will success look like and how are we going to monitor success? Because you don't just give in money saying, okay, we are giving 10 trillion to Ugandan shillings to this organ, and then after 2 years we want to see results. There has to be a track of progress for things to be done well. And these are things that have been lacking so far. That is why things are not going the way we want them to. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Harriet. Ruth.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Dr. Miria Matembe. Thank you, Harriet. I want to go back to the scripture that Dr. Miria mentioned, that what should be, what can create sort of a reset for this country. I think I agree with Doctor that we actually need a reset, and maybe that reset is going to come through prayer. And I want to piggyback on what Harriet has said on picking on wealth creation programs and how they have been a total failure. But also what MPs were recently saying, that you're giving each parish, I think, 100 million, and when you do that vis-a-vis how much state spending is, so you question whether wealth creation is actually a priority for this government. But also I'm reminded of a book by, it's called Development, the Anti-Politics Machine. That it's by a man called James Ferguson, and he's looking at how many development projects are running, especially those that are funded by the government, wealth creation programs really. And I look at this as what the case of Uganda really is, that these programs don't want to address the root cause. They just want to mask up many things. They want to mask up the politics that surround how people become poor. They want to mask up the politics that create divisions, income inequalities, region imbalances, why some regions are poor, why some regions are succeeding, why some regions may have better roads than other regions. Development programs such as Myoga, PDM will come to just cover up. They want to create sort of an even ground that we are giving all of you 100 million, but really who is accessing that 100 million, and why are certain people accessing the 100 million and other people not accessing the 100 million? So it is failing because there is something deeper that is not being addressed, and just giving someone 1 million Uganda shillings to go and start up something is not going to help, especially under certain circumstances. So I think while you might say we need to change our priorities, I think we don't just need to change priorities. We need a total reset of many things, because even the development programs that you want us to pay attention to are not talking because of certain things. If you really want if you really want a reset, if you're really intentional, let us first look at how much State House is spending every day, vis-a-vis how much Ugandans really may be needing. Let us look at how much money we have to pay in terms of interests to contractors who are not finishing roads on time, just because someone is playing politics somewhere, and how much that money could have been used for schools, for health facilities. So I think it is a very deeper question, much deeper than just roads that are not being done, deeper than how much Myoga is receiving and how much Myoga is not receiving. I think we need a total reset in this country if we're going to see something different.
Yeah, sorry, it has taken me back to NADS. When I was growing up, I used to hear NADS a lot. NADS. I actually thought PDM would also go that way. Maybe he would come up and say, you know what, let's put it under UPDF, because that's what happened to NADS.
You see, she has provoked me to tell you the things. Every session, do you call it a session of the term, every term
Yes.
of Museveni, they concoct something,
Which is
they
the
come
same.
with it. Every time, NADS is one of it.
Operation of
Operation Creation NADS. Bonaba
Bagagawale.
In fact, in Zenachita, Bonaba Gwagwaware. Because he said Bonaba Gagaware. Nakati, how is that different from PDU?
Yes.
But he creates, you wait. He comes in next day, you come with another thing. But I'm concluding by saying, what was the last statement? NRM and UPD were mixed together. What did it say?
The last statement said,
As they signed,
listen to the NRA/UPDF strategy.
now, UNLF UNLF or UNLM?
UNLF. It was NLF.
Forum.
Yes, forum, yes, yes. It was
UNLF
Front.
Uganda National Liberation
Front, yes.
and EPDA
Uganda People's Defense Forces.
strategy.
Yes.
Somebody who lives in such kind of history.
Yes.
Do you know since that one, that is 40 years ago, he has been given an opportunity to implement that strategy he's telling us right now for good 40 years. What has he done? What has he done? Why doesn't he say, you people, I am done, let me go? And for you Ugandans, it is your fault. Unless you rise up, let me tell you by concluding.
Please conclude.
I'm concluding with this statement, biblical statement. I've always told you the children of Israel, they were supposed to cross over from Egypt. They left Egypt and they were supposed to cross over to the promised land. I think it was like 10 days. But because of their mentality, slavery mentality and whatever their poor attitude, they spent 40 years in the desert. They spent 40 years in the desert. But after those 40 years, they came to cross. They crossed to the promised land. The promised land was there. Our promised Uganda is there. This is 40 years. We are 40 years around the corner. I wanted to tell Ugandans, wake up! Like God told Israel, he said, you have been on this mountain for far too long. Get up and take north. So let Ugandans get up. They've been in the desert for far too long. This man who is deceiving us has been the leader of UNLF, the leader of UPDA. If he is the leader, why isn't he not taking the policy? Why doesn't he implement what he has? If he thinks he was the visioner, the vision bearer, the dreamer, what has failed him to come and to cry to us? Stop provoking us. And you Ugandans, rise up and do what is needful to deliver this nation.
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of our show, but we would like to hear from you. So what have your experiences with the roads been? We would like you to give us your comments, but also tag us on social medias. Right now, you've heard that, yes? Yes, as we've heard today, the roads are more than just infrastructure. They are a reflection of priorities, of governance, of whose voices are counted. The President later raises more urgent questions, not only about potholes and donor money, but also about how our government, after 4 decades, still blames the governed for its shortcomings. We must ask ourselves, is the NRA strategy building a nation or isolating the leaders from the people? Are we budgeting for propaganda or for public good? Thank you so much to my esteemed panelists for coming in, and for all of you for watching. Stay strong, stay speaking, because Uganda is listening. This is Women Speaking. My name is Caroline Ayot. I'm your host.